Hello crafters, thank you for being with me today. Today's project may be a little bit of a wild one. It's something that I kind of worked with to try to figure out how to make work, and I think I've got it, but we're going to take a look at making a trifold card with a decorative border. So let's go ahead and switch the camera and see if this is going to work. All right, thank you so much. Okay, so here's our card, and I kind of got this idea. I was just flipping through Instagram, and somebody that had made something for a totally different company, totally different style, but they had done this kind of ribbon with a decorative edge, and I just thought, oh, that would be pretty with the flowers from the basket set. So you know me, I got an idea and I just rolled with it. So I thought I would share it with you. So I do have that kind of taped down so I can photograph it without it popping open, but I made this decorative edge here, and then I made it into a trifold card with a message on the inside. So I thought this was fun, and I can see lots of other sets that I can kind of do this design with. So to begin, you will need a 6x6 white card base. And then you're also going to need a 6x6.5 sheet of paper. And we'll go ahead and set our 6x6 card base aside for a moment. But on your 6x6.5, you'll want to put the long side at the top and score at the 1/2 inch mark. So that on the other side of your score mark, you've got a 6x6 area. And I went ahead and put a pencil mark here for you so you can see where I scored. All right, the next thing we're going to want to do is to take a ruler and from your score mark, measure 2 inches out and make yourself a little pencil mark. And the same thing, you're going to want to come down to the bottom and make a mark at the same place. And then I'm not going to draw a line all the way through, but just right there from your pencil marks, make a couple lines out so you can see where the 2 inch mark is on both ends. All right, so the set that we're going to be using from the basket collection is the largest of the florals. Okay, I suppose if you wanted to make this like an A2 size card, you could do a similar type thing with one of the smaller florals, but today we're using this biggest one. And so you're going to take the die that cuts this out. That's this one right here. And we're going to position it, really, you can position it however you want to. You just don't want the ends of it to go all the way back to your score mark. Okay, so you just want it to be forward of your score mark a little bit. But if you do it way out here, then this part will stick out way further. So it's really just up to you how much of that you want to be seen. But I did it so that this little part right here was within my 2 inch mark, because the paper that I cut to go right here is only 2 inches wide. So if you make it come out this far, you're going to have to account for that when you make your paper. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so I'm going to put it about right here, just so I have maybe a 1/2 inch or less, right about a 1/2 inch, I would say. And you're going to center it along your 2 lines here, and then you're going to go ahead. And when I put my tape down to hold my die in place, I'm putting it straight along that line that I put there. And that's going to help me when I put it through my machine to only go so far as the tape. Okay, same on this side. Now, when I put this through my manual die cut machine, I'm only going to put it through to the tape, and then I'm going to roll back out. So you're going to roll it into the tape and then roll back out. And what you'll have when it comes out is this right here. All right, because you've only cut this far back. So the next thing we're going to do once we get to this point is take our scissors and go ahead and cut that at the 2 inch mark on both sides. So your little lines that you made, you're just going to cut that on both sides. All right, so now that we've done that, where you made your score mark, we'll go ahead and score that and burnish it in both directions so that it opens real nicely. All right, now if you have an electric die cut machine, I kind of racked my mind to try to figure out how to do this with an electric die cut machine, and I just couldn't get it. So some of you out there may have been able to kind of picture that in your mind and get that to work. I never could. So normally we have our cards open this direction, but for this one we're going to turn it the other way, and we're going to open it like this. And then this one, I'm going to attach it right over here. Okay. So I'm going to do that with a little bit of double-sided adhesive. You can use wet glue if you prefer. I need to put my glasses on. I can't do anything straight without my glasses. I always realize when I'm trying to do something, why did I mess that up? And then I'm like, oh, because you can't see. That's usually the main reason. Or at least we can say that is, right? Okay. So I know that I'm going to be putting a piece of paper inside here. So I'm going to put my overlap flap on the inside. If you wanted to, you could do it on the back this way, but then you're going to see that seam on the back. And I didn't want to see that seam. So I am going to do it on the inside. Did I get that crooked? I sure did. Well, we'll have to go with it. Okay, so once you get your seam inside, in order for this one to shut, see, you might have to trim a little bit off. Now, if you did a really good job putting this on, then you may not have to do that. But in my original, I had to do that as well. Just a slight little trim right there. So I'll go ahead and do that. And less than an 1/18 of an inch, really. I didn't have to trim very much off at all. All right, and there we go. We have our flap, our trifold card. So I am going to trim off where I got that crooked. And I just did that with my scissors. There we go. That little edge. Okay, so now that we have that done, we're going to go on with our die cutting and our stamping and our coloring. Okay, so this will be our card base. And we'll do a little bit more to this later in order to do our ribbon. But for now, that's ready to go. All right, so when we do our stamping, I did all of my stamping in the emerald green. And I stamped this image twice. But on the second one, I only stamped kind of this middle section right here because all I needed from it were the 3 roses, okay? So the second time you stamp it, you really only need to do the 3 roses there in the middle. And then I have my colored one ready to go, but I'm going to kind of show you how I did my coloring. All right, so I came in with my makeup brushes, and when I got my ink on my makeup brush, I set it where I wanted the shadow, and then I just flicked forward. And wherever the little lines are for the shadow, that's where I flicked forward with my makeup brush. After my makeup brush kind of got the heaviest off of it, and you can kind of tell when that happens, then I went back and just lightly kind of colored in, being careful not to press too hard and lose my definition that I got there when I first flipped the color on. And I just kind of did that, working my way around the whole image doing the roses. And that is how I colored my roses. And I did that same thing to all of them. And then came back and lightly colored in. All right, so that is how I did the roses. Now to do I think these are hydrangea, I'm not 100% sure, but I came in with a Majestic Violet. There we go. And I got Majestic Violet on the other side of my dauber, and I just tapped. And on all the places that looked like it was a hydrangea, I just tapped that color on. Kind of see how that looks in there. Is that all of them? I think so. All right. Then I turned around to the other end, and I went with the French Ultramarine, which is a light blue, and same thing. I got my color on there, and then I just tapped it onto my hydrangea, giving that a nice variation of purple and blue. Pretty much all the places that were white, I went ahead and filled in with the ultramarine. Okay, making sure I got all the white parts. Okay, so that's how I did the hydrangea. Okay, so the next thing were my leaves. And I started with the emerald green. And at the base of every leaf that looks like this, I added some darker emerald green down in there. And anywhere where I thought there should be shading, like if it's close to another leaf or close to a flower where I thought it would be darker, I just added some of that emerald green. And if it's way out here in the front and I didn't think it had a lot of shading, then I put less on it. So that's just, I worked my way around the whole image doing this. All right, so after I got that done, let's see, I'm going to get a different one because I accidentally used the wrong side. Okay, after that, I came in with the Vivid Chartreuse, and over my emerald green and everything, I just colored that whole leaf in. You can kind of see how I did that. All right. I think leaves are very rewarding to color. They're just, I love blending the greens together. I don't know why, but that's how I colored all the leaves that look like what I call the rose leaves. Okay, so I think the only two that I also, with either my emerald green or on the things where the stems to the roses show, there's a couple of them, like over here, I colored those with the emerald green and the Vivid Chartreuse, either or, just get some color on those. Okay, for the last two colors, all of these leaves that look like this, I used the Paradise Teal. So my color palette for today that I started with was the Paradise Teal, the Vivid Chartreuse, and the Violet. So that was kind of the beginnings of my color palette. Then the other colors I just brought in because of the images I was coloring. I told you I've kind of been choosing my color palette before I get started to kind of break out of my norms. So this Paradise Teal, I put my makeup brush right at the base of each leaf and just kind of flick out, kind of like I've been doing with the other flowers and all of these, and then I lightly traced along the stem. So I let it be darker back by the image, and then as my color ran out on my thing, I did the ones that were further out. And I did that to pretty much all of them. Just working my way around the image. It's so easy and rewarding, and I just really enjoy doing that. Okay. So the last color, now of course I did the whole entire image, but that is how I did that one. And the last color that I did was Sunflower, and this was just kind of add some variation in my thing, but I just tapped the yellow onto these that are all these shapes, this little and I did that again, just working my way, and there's some down in there, and working my way around the whole image. Okay, so I hope that kind of helps you see how I went about coloring this beautiful floral. And for this little section right here, I did it the exact same way with this, but after it came out, I went around and I did the edges. So I did the edges of all the leaves with emerald, and then I did the edges of all the flowers with the vibrant fuchsia. And I'm going to layer those on top of this image, and that's why I really wanted those edges to be defined. So let me kind of show you on this one. So you can see here, when I layer this on here, I wanted that to be very, you know, to have a definition. So by flicking the edges of that, the leaves are more defined from the ones that are underneath it. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay. The other image, and I colored this image the exact same way that I colored this image. And on all of the round roses, I used these two colors. For my leaves, I did them exactly like the rose leaves with these two colors. For my butterflies, I used these two colors. Whoops, and I'm out of the image. So again, butterfly, leaves, and roses. Okay, so that's how I colored this one. And the only thing different that I did was, after I was completely finished, I got one of my triangle daubers and I put just a little bit of sunflower on my dauber and I tapped off, and then I very lightly rubbed all around the image to kind of give that a little bit of a yellow glow behind the image. Now in my original, I did it a little different. I cut the center out and then I stamped it on the paper that I used. But for this one, I thought I would like that a little better if it had the lighter background in there. I thought it would be a little easier to read. I thought this one, the words I am and for you, I am so and for you, was a little harder to read than it is on the whole die cut. So that's why I did this one a little differently. All right, the other thing that I did is I stamped this a second time in the Majestic Violet, and I went ahead and die cut that out separately so that I could layer this on there. And I did come back with my dauber, and on all the little areas there that are white, I tapped it with the yellow just so that it would match the rest of the background, because when I didn't do that, you could really tell that those were white compared to that sunflower that's on the background. Okay, so that makes us done with our coloring. Set all that aside, and we can set these pieces aside. So let's work. Oh, you know what? There was one more thing. The I appreciate you so much. I stamped that in the vibrant, not vibrant, the Majestic Violet in a, I think this is a 1.5 inch circle, and I cut that. I'll measure it for you because I can't remember. I think it's 1.5 by looking. Yes, 1.5. All right, so that makes us done with our inks. So the next thing you're going to need is a piece of chrome. And here are the pieces that we're going to die cut out of chrome. So let me show you the products that I used. I used these two sets, the Islet Royale and the Stairway Garden. So from the Stairway Garden, I took out this eyelet square, and I cut out one of those. And that's all I used from that piece. Then from this set, I used this combination right here. And that looks like, okay, if you cut this out by itself, it just cuts it into the paper. If you want it to come out, you have to take one of these little squares and die cut that as well. So I did it like this and ran it through my machine like this. And then when this square came out, I moved this one over and I die cut it again to give me these two right here. So hopefully that made sense. After I came out the first time, I moved this over, ran it through again on the piece that was right here, and that gave me this. So hopefully that made sense. And so you'll have these two and this one after you do that. And then from my filigree border and accents, I took out this pretty piece. It's this one right down here at the bottom. And this pretty corner piece right here. And I did this one twice in the silver. And boy, does it get tangled up on everything it touches. Okay, that gave me this. And then I have two of these. And then out of our circle frame die, this is the third from the smallest one, and it is the one that this circle, it is the one that our little circle fits in. And so I did cut that out as well. All right, so I think we have all of our pieces now. I'm going to slide these over so they don't get tangled up again. The only other pieces you will need are 2 pieces of decorative patterned paper. And I chose a pale purple to be the one that my flowers rested on. I thought that looked really pretty together. And on my original, I used a 6x6 piece from the feathery floral paper, but I didn't have another sheet of this. So I just went to that, say, you know, the ones that have the quadrants, there's like 4 6x6s on one sheet of paper. I went ahead and off of that same sheet, I chose this one because I thought it matched well. So your purple piece, you'll need to trim down so that it fits inside of our eyelet piece. So we want this one to fit inside here. So I did trim this one down, and I'll measure it for you. It is 5.5. Oh, it looks like it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, it's 5 5/8 by 5 5/8. Okay, so these are all the pieces that we need. So let's go ahead and, whoop, I missed one. Okay, another sheet. I made a 2 inch by 6 inch piece, and this came from the feathery florals as well, and it was sheet 10B. And I had this in my scrap box, and I thought it complemented the colors that were in my florals there and looked good with the purple. So I didn't want to use the same purple. I wanted it to be something different, but I just went through and found a scrap piece that I liked my bouquet on. So you may find totally different pieces that you would like to use, but that's how I did that. All right, so to begin, I am going to go ahead and glue this triangle piece, it's a square, this square piece onto my frame. And on here, I'm just going to put the glue right down there. There we go. And this one is going to go right inside. Now, the outer edge of the eyelets will hang over the edge of your paper. If you put it all the way in, then it's not going to close. So we'll go ahead and put that one in. Just keeping in mind that the outer edge of eyelets are going to hang off the edge of your card. And I just put it so that the eyelets are right at the edge of my paper on all the other 3 sides. All right, and then that closes perfectly. Now for this piece that's going to go inside, you're going to probably need to trim it down to make sure, but depending on how you put this on is going to determine how much you need to trim off. So I am going to go ahead and I'm going to almost have to trim off a 1/4 inch because I messed up where I put this, but hopefully yours will just need a little bitty trim. All right, so I'm going to put it in this way. And as always, you want to be careful not to put that right on your seams so that your card opens and closes easily. Now for this outer edge, I'm going to go ahead and take my 2 inch piece, and look at that. I thought I measured that to 2 inches. I only did 1.5 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and trim mine down to 1.5 inches after I add it, but yours should have been 2 inches. Sometimes I make so many cards that I forget my measurements on different things, and I made this the wrong size. But your piece should be 2 inches. And you need to put this down before you put your flowers on. And it's a very easy fix. I can just go right back to there. And when I die cut, it looks like I did go a little far, so it's going to be no problem to just have that off of there. My flowers are going to cover that up. There we go. Okay, so now that I have that done, I'm going to line up my florals here with my image. Sometimes it's a little hard to, well, you know what? I glued mine on upside down. I really believe I just did that. Yep. All right. That's something to watch out for when you do this, because that never entered my mind, but I did. I can see my die cut lines now are the other way. I didn't watch for that. So, in all things, I never turn back. I can usually find a solution. So I'm thinking what I'm going to do is add a little bit of color to those edges. I'm just going to slide this paper underneath. This is what happens when you're live crafting. You can make a mistake and you just find yourself a solution. All right, I'm going to come in with my daubers and I'm going to add a little bit of color on these edges. Not all of them, but the ones that are showing out there. And I'm also going to come in with the yellow because some of these are yellow. Sunflower on there, and we'll just blend that out. Okay, let me see how I like that. I think that's going to be okay with me. Okay, so you see how that is? I just added a little color so that those aren't stark white back there. So after I get this glued on, I will show you what I did to make that and why I had to fix that. All right. Okay, so what I did, this piece right here that I added to here, I put it upside down. Remember when I burnished it both directions? I didn't pay attention to which side was my die cut side, and I put it on backwards. So that is why my edges didn't line up. So the first time I did it, that was just not an issue, and I didn't even really notice that it was a possible issue, or I would have warned you about it ahead of time. But that's what I did. So when you do that, make sure you're careful on that when you add that piece that you're getting it right side up so that your piece lines up. If by some chance you do what I did and you get that upside down, you may come up with a different fix than I did, but this fix is okay with me. So, all right, the next thing I'm going to do is take these decorative pieces and I'm going to add them right inside here on my pretty purple piece. So you'll have to tell me on the comments there, when something like that happens to you, does it shake you up and you throw away your pieces and start over, or give up and go downstairs and watch TV because you're frustrated? Or do you find yourself a solution pretty easily and keep going? Whoopsie. One of my family's mottos, and this is from my mom and the way she grew up with my grandpa, is, and I remember my mom saying this all growing up, is there's no problems, just solutions. So I kind of grew up with that mindset and that way of thinking, and I definitely apply that to my crafting. It is rare when I feel like I have messed something up so badly that I just need to throw it in the trash. Every now and then, but it's pretty rare. I can usually work with it and salvage something. I don't always like it in the end. It's not necessarily one of my favorites, but I do keep at it until I come up with something I can enjoy. All right, so here's what we have so far. And when I open it up, this is where I'm going to add this piece right here. And I'm liking that. I like my yellow butterflies with this paper. With my original, I kind of more match the purple flowers than the butterflies, but I'm thinking I like this paper even better. So I'm just going to glue this straight down. You know, often when we watch the kind of famous crafters out there, they kind of seem like they never make mistakes. I think the truth is they make plenty of them. It just doesn't necessarily make the videos, right? So I am okay with sharing my mess ups with you. I am far from perfect. All right, so once we get this in here, we are going to add our little roses on the front. And the way I did this, instead of laying them like decoupaging where you put it right exactly on top of the image, I kind of offset it so that it gave a look of additional roses in there. And let's see here. I think I just kind of offset it about like that. And really, I'll show you my original. On this one, I had to cut my roses apart because I had already added this piece, and where I put them here, I didn't have room to do that. So it's really just up to you, but I did offset them so you kind of get a fuller look. All right, now for this little piece right here, I came around with some of the pink, the vibrant fuchsia color. And I just flicked that vibrant fuchsia all the way around this circle. And I wanted to be able to see it, so I'm kind of starting on the top edge. All right, about like that. And then I came around with some of my glue here, and I'm going to add some glitter all the way around the edges of this circle. Kind of up on top. I want to be able to see that all the way around. Just kind of, in the same way I flick the ink on, I'm flicking the glue. There we go. So it kind of just looks a little frosted and candied on there. I kind of like that. I think it added, because I don't have a lot of dimension on here, I kind of liked adding that glitter there. Okay, now I'm just going to pop that there on my circle. And I do believe I popped this up a little bit, so I'm just going to grab some foam. And I kind of positioned it just right here between my roses, and you can kind of just position it wherever you like it. About right here. I didn't want to cover up all my teal leaves. I wanted to be able to see those. All right, there we go. Now I do come back at the end and add glitter on the flowers, but I will do that in a moment. So on the inside, I am going to take my word grateful and I'm going to glue it on top of the green. I stamped that in emerald green in the beginning. Now, one thing you can do if you know, you're watching and I say size is too fast or something like that, on my website, I do take photographs and measurements, and all of that is listed for you, ink colors, things like that. And you can always go there if you're trying to recreate anything that I do, and that might help you. Oh, I like that so much better. There's something about just adding those different colors, having that same color in the flowers. I think that really adds a lot. So in my original, I added some decorative chrome pieces in there, the deluxe silver, and I just kind of put them like this around my image. But on this one, it has a lot more yellow tones to it. In my original, you know, it had more of the kind of blues and purples and stuff, so I like the chrome, the silver with it. But I think on this one, I'm going to leave those off. But you can do things like that based on the colors that you choose. So our final step is to add our ribbon. And I'm going to show you how I added ribbon to this card. So I'm going to get a little, I'm folding this piece of cardboard up so that I protect my surface. but I am going to take my craft knife and pretty much right there in the middle, I'm just going to make myself a little cut wide enough for my ribbon to go through. Whoops, missed my cut. All right, did I get it open? Yes, so you can kind of see, can you see my fingernail sticking out right there? Yeah, so I think that's wide enough for my ribbon. And I basically want it to be twice, a little over twice what I need, because I want it to overlap. And the way I do this is I take my double-sided adhesive, and this double-sided adhesive is just a little less wide than my ribbon. And let's see, I want to make sure that I get it right where it needs to be. There we go. And then I'm going to bring it around to this side. And I'm going to need a little bit more, probably right back gonna see where my, whoops, sorry, I'm just looking to see where my little slit is, and I'm gonna bring this around and add my, whoops, did I get it too far to one side? Yeah. There we go. Okay. All right, so now that I have my glue down, I'm going to take my ribbon and slide it through the little hole that I made. There we go. All right. I want my kind of where the ribbon meets up to be on the back side, not the front side. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that one off. Glue that down. Pull this one off. All right, and peel that back. And now I've got my piece on this side. I'm going to go ahead and just pull that straight down there. Whoops. And then just lay that on down through there. Now I would add another piece of score tape down to hold that down, or I may just cut it off down to there, just a little bit shorter. I don't need that long of a tail. All right, and then on this side, I have tied a ribbon in advance. I am not a good ribbon tire. My mother is the ribbon tire in our family. I do it the bunny ear way. That's kind of the only way I know how to tie a ribbon. But I'm going to add another piece of score tape right here and add my ribbon. Now I'm just going to put that right on there. And then I'm going to add my ribbon so that it holds down. Now, I have tried other ways to hold ribbon. I really like the way it came out. I really like using this pretty bouquet here to kind of be the edge of your card. So I do need to perfect some of my techniques with this. Like I said, I just was kind of playing around with the idea and just kind of figured it out. I probably should have done it a few more times before I made a live, but that's all right. I enjoy just crafting with you anyway. So I am going to straighten this up and fix that overlap right there. But I hope you have enjoyed making the decorative edge and a trifold card with me today. And I'm going to go ahead and, oh, you know what? I forgot to do my glittering, but I did just all of my roses. I glittered my flowers up pretty well, but y'all know how to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and switch back. All right, well, thank you so much again for crafting with me today. I told you it might be a wild ride today, and it kind of was, but I hope you have a lovely day, and thanks a lot for spending your time with me, and I look forward to crafting with you again soon. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.